The 42nd Ordinary Summit of the Southern African Development Community starts today and will end tomorrow in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The two-day meeting will be held under the theme Promoting Industrialization through Agro-Processing, Mineral Beneficiation and Regional Value Chains for Inclusive and Resilient Economic Growth. Let's speak now to Adv Sipho Mantula, Pan-African analyst, for more on what to expect from this summit. Thank you very much for availing yourself this morning. Given that very few SADC countries actually process their own raw material, just how effective will this meeting be, or is it just another talk shop?
Jumbo, Africa's sister, do even your viewers. I think, like we said, this summit is very important on two forms, being 30 years of the SADC formation. But as you are raising on their thematic areas, I think they are far-fetched in the sense that most of the liberation movements who are part of the frontline states or SADC have failed to bring citizens into confidence. They have not managed to deal with the issues of exploitations of minerals. If you look at the conflict that are in the North Mozambique, you look at the conflict that is within DRC itself as the host, that raises many issues. And when you look at both Article 23 of SADC Treaty, they failed to bring people to people. South Africa currently is facing what we call African migrants. You look at the conflict in Eswatini, they are failing to rein that king under Article 42 in terms of settlement of disputes and sanctions. But when you look at those issues of Africa free trade, once SADC deals with the issues of trade, the issues of Africa continental free trade, we looked at how COVID messed us up. So for us to unmask the role of SADC summit, it is to raise this issue of, is it the league of only leaders? Is it the moment where we see leaders just flying in and out in the war zones and they don't consider what are the agency and what are the pressing issues in the SADC region? And we know very well, since to do that, the youth in the SADC region are on a ticking time bomb on a daily basis.
And that's just it. What will it take to get an effective SADC leadership, right? And maybe asking in reference to what you have said, you're not the first to raise the criticism around the effectiveness of SADC when you maybe compare it to ECOWAS or the East African community. And maybe that's an unfair comparison, but there's work being done there, especially when it comes to the movement of people. If we are hinging all this progress and industrialization on the African continental free trade area.
No, correctly. And I think even if we have to do comparative analysis with ECOWAS, ENCA community, the ECOSOC, I think those civil society platforms have failed the people of the region. Hence, normally when you have the SADC summit, the media doesn't even focus on the People's Summit, what I always call the civil society voices that normally challenges SADC on these issues. We have illicit financial flows in the SADC region. We have the issues of exploitation of young people in the mining industry. We have the issues that even when you talk of ECOWAS, ECOSOC, like I will say to you, again, you have a new elite that you are even creating in that civil society grouping. And most of the SADC member states, if I can be honest with you, they don't have what I call SADC national committees, meaning that Article 23 that I kept on emphasizing that many member states are guilty. And most of them are liberation movements. You think of Angola, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Mozambique, South Africa. They don't have what we call SADC national committees. And that's where you see effectiveness of civil society holding member states accountable. So it does become a comedic moment. It becomes selfie moments of leaders when they travel to these summits.
And this photo opportunity moment or the selfie moment that you talk of is quite problematic, right? So you mentioned the irony of the Democratic Republic of Congo taking over the chairperson position of the SADC especially when it comes to the insecurity in the Democratic Republic of Congo. How to get a handle on the situation in Mozambique if in your own backyard there's so many problems?
No, correctly. And again, remember that South Africa, as it was the chair of the organ, I don't think we have done well if one has to assess the role of even South Africa. And if you look at DRC conflict that we have just mentioned, Why should we wait for an American Secretary of State to come and mediate a conflict that is in East Africa? When you have East Africa community, you have the AU, you have the SADC that will have reined in Tshisekedi about the impact of this conflict. And what we have now, we have to wait for the U.S. Secretary as a holy angel to come and tell us about how to resolve our conflict. And at the same time, we do find that there's been tensions between Rwanda and DRC. Botswana issue, we are sitting with the fugitive fear of a president. We are not dealing with it. Eswatini, we are sitting with a king who is very stubborn to allow political activism in that country. Zimbabwe, we are sitting with the problem of Mnangagwa coming back into power. So if you look at those leaders, I always see them as a league of sometimes European brotherhood, but having the face and the spirit of African people, but they don't resonate and represent those views. And that's how SADC becomes a mockery for this summit, that they don't deal with the elephant in the room. Despite they are talking of 2050 vision of SADC, 2063, Agenda 2063, but how do they trickle down to our communities? How do they deal with the youth bulk of unemployment, corruption as well, Sister Dudu, that I've picked up? Some of the conflicts involve corrupt multinationals. They are here in Africa to loot. If you look at the northern Mozambique conflict, you find that we have hidden hands in that conflict, including foreign powers.
I'm not sure how much of an issue this could possibly be as well, because it's rotational, right, the chairperson position, and it's only for a year. So how much change can one really effect in a year? Lazarus Chakwera of Malawi, as he hands over the reins to Felix Tshisekedi of the Democratic Republic of Congo, believes he's fulfilled his mandate.
I don't think so. When you think of the bishop, I think he was struggling, because there is this organ, and then you have the Heads of State Summit, and then you have this chairpersonship, as you have said. It is just rotating, shifting the blame from one leader to the other. And when I look at the elections that are facing Tshisekedi, Chakwera in the SADC region, they have not done very well. They are having Angola on their plate, Lesotho. They are having a crisis that they were supposed to deal with in terms of COVID-19. Because when Chakwera was the chairperson, we saw how many SADC member states were even relying on the Western countries to give them the tools of dealing with this coronavirus. And when you look at food security, Malawi has not done nothing to deal with the food security issues. They failed to deal with corruption in the SADC region. They failed on the question of Eswatini. It is the same like where SADC is based, Botswana. I don't think, maybe there is no mind shift to say Gaborone being the HQ of SADC, is it even effective? Is this term of chairpersons enough? I know that they are talking about the SADC parliament, that they want to make it a formal permanent institution. Is that parliament also accountable to the SADC citizens? I don't think so. It is the same like the Pan-African Parliament, that most of our citizens knew about it when they were fighting for power, but they don't know the hour.
With a continent that's got so much arable land, you mentioned food security, that's also on the agenda. Why is it that we find ourselves cap in hand begging countries that are at war to provide us with food?
Again, the AU theme of this year talk about food security, but the issue that you have raised with land being arable, having abundance of land, but it's still in the wrong hands. It is the issue again that even the so-called climate change in the African continent, we don't even look at it with an African eye. How do we redefine these climate change scenarios? How do we deal with even the issue of floods that are facing the SADC region? We know Mozambique, we know Malawi has been going through the floods. Are we even having the mechanism of the energy sector? How do we even think of the Ukraine and Russia conflict and thinking that they will be the ones who will be our food basket, when we knew Zimbabwe was the food basket, Mozambique, South Africa, but we see that the land is still in the wrong hands, and hence Africans will ever be perpetual beggars to Europeans when you think of food. Madagascar, there's a food
Advocate Mantula, unfortunately, we have to take our viewers. Thank you very much. Point well made.